Almost everyone feels trapped under the weight of their own problems. Bills pile up, tasks stay unfinished, decisions get postponed, and stress becomes constant. Most people try to fix life by looking for quick hacks, advice, or shortcuts, but that never works. The truth is simple. There is one habit, one daily action, that can eliminate 95% of the issues that drain your energy, steal your focus, and keep you stuck. This habit doesn't require luck, money, or special skills. It's about taking control, acting immediately, handling responsibilities, and finishing what you start. When done consistently, it changes how your mind reacts to challenges, how your day unfolds, and how stress affects you. Your relationships improve, your confidence grows, and life starts feeling manageable instead of overwhelming. By sticking with this habit, you stop letting problems control you, and you start running your life instead. In this video, you will learn exactly how to build this habit so that stress, worry, and chaos no longer dictate your every move. This is the habit that changes everything. Chapter 1. Choose responsibility daily and watch problems lose power. Responsibility is not something that comes naturally to everyone, but it is the foundation for freedom, growth, and control over life. Most people live day to day, trying to avoid it. They blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for their struggles. The truth is that problems are not as powerful as they seem. What gives them power is your unwillingness to take responsibility. Every challenge, every mistake, every obstacle grows only because we allow it to control us. Choosing responsibility daily is a habit that transforms life because it puts control back into your hands and removes excuses from your mind. When responsibility is embraced, the mind begins to see clearly. Uncertainty no longer feels overwhelming. Challenges are approached with strategy instead of fear. When a problem arises, it stops being an external enemy and becomes an internal assignment. What can I do now? This simple shift changes everything. Instead of feeling powerless, you recognize that your choices, your actions, and your responses define outcomes more than anything else. Responsibility also shapes character. A person who consistently takes responsibility for their life gains self-respect. That self-respect is visible to others, and it naturally builds trust. People are drawn to those who own their actions and their results. Conversely, avoiding responsibility creates a pattern of helplessness. Waiting for someone else to fix your problems trains your mind to expect external control instead of developing internal strength. Responsibility is not just a moral concept. It is a practical skill that governs every aspect of life. Taking responsibility begins with honesty. The first step is acknowledging where you are in life and recognizing what you can control. This requires examining your actions, decisions, and the results they produce. Many people avoid this because self-reflection can be uncomfortable. It is easier to point fingers or make excuses. The problem is that without honesty, you remain in the same place, repeating the same mistakes, and letting problems accumulate. Honest self-assessment illuminates the path forward and identifies areas where action is necessary. Once honesty is applied, action must follow. Responsibility is meaningless without movement. It is not enough to acknowledge mistakes or challenges. You must act to correct them. This can mean addressing a financial shortfall, having a difficult conversation, adjusting your habits, or setting boundaries. Action strengthens confidence because it proves to yourself that you can influence outcomes. Problems shrink when confronted directly rather than ignored or avoided. Every small step taken is evidence that you are capable and that obstacles are not permanent barriers. Daily responsibility also develops foresight. When you own your choices consistently, you begin to anticipate consequences before they arrive. You notice patterns in your life that either support growth or hinder progress. This awareness allows you to make preventive decisions, avoiding unnecessary difficulties before they occur. People who do not practice responsibility often face repeated issues because they fail to recognize the warning signs or take corrective steps early. Responsibility trains perception and situational awareness, giving you a strategic advantage. Responsibility is also deeply connected to emotional control. When you stop blaming external circumstances, you stop giving them power over your mood. Life will always include setbacks, mistakes, and challenges, but responsibility allows you to respond rather than react. Emotional reactions tend to escalate problems, but a responsible response diffuses tension. By choosing to remain calm, composed, and solution-focused, you not only protect yourself from stress, but also improve your relationships and professional interactions. The power of responsibility lies in the control it restores over both action and emotion. Taking responsibility daily builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, and adversity is inevitable. Those who embrace responsibility do not crumble when faced with difficulty. They analyze the situation, decide what can be done, and move forward. They understand that setbacks are not permanent, that solutions exist, and that growth often comes through overcoming obstacles. The problems themselves are rarely as catastrophic as they seem. What creates suffering is the refusal to act or own the outcome. Responsibility transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth and learning. One of the most significant benefits of responsibility is the reduction of unnecessary stress. People often feel overwhelmed because they deny their role in their circumstance. When you accept responsibility, every issue becomes manageable. You stop waiting for someone else to fix things and start controlling what you can influence. This reduces fear and uncertainty, replacing them with clarity and confidence. Problems lose power not because they disappear, but because you no longer allow them to dominate your thoughts and emotions. Responsibility is also practical in every aspect of life. At work, it means taking ownership of tasks, meeting commitments, and delivering results without excuses. In relationships, it means being accountable for your words, your time, and your actions toward others. In personal growth, it means recognizing your habits, decisions, and how they affect your future. Across every area, responsibility shifts life from reactive to proactive. It positions you as the leader of your circumstances rather than a follower of them. Choosing responsibility requires discipline, but discipline is easier when the habit is consistent. Each day, taking responsibility for even small actions reinforces the mindset. Paying attention to what you can control, correcting errors immediately, and avoiding blame strengthens willpower and self-trust. Over time, responsibility becomes second nature. You no longer wait for permission or encouragement. You act because you recognize that your life responds to the choices you make, not to the wishes or actions of others. Accountability to oneself is another critical aspect. When you commit to taking responsibility daily, you establish a standard for your life. You no longer excuse failures or delays. You measure progress by your actions, not external circumstances. This internal accountability builds a sense of integrity and reliability. Others notice this and naturally respect it. Trust and influence grow because people see that you take your obligations seriously and that you do not shift blame to avoid discomfort. Responsibility also fosters learning and growth. When you own mistakes, you learn from them. You do not deny the lesson, nor do you ignore it. Each failure becomes data for improvement. Each problem becomes a chance to refine judgment. Life accelerates when responsibility is embraced, because experience is translated into knowledge and strategy. Those who avoid responsibility remain trapped in cycles of repetition and stagnation because they never internalize lessons from their challenges. This habit strengthens leadership skills naturally. Leadership begins with the ability to manage yourself. A person who is responsible daily demonstrates reliability, decisiveness, and accountability. Others recognize these traits, and influence grows organically. Leadership is not about control over others. It is about control over oneself and the ability to respond effectively to challenges. Responsibility is the foundation on which influence and authority are built. Taking responsibility also reduces dependency on luck or chance. Life will always be uncertain, but a responsible approach ensures you are prepared. Problems are met with solutions, not panic. Decisions are informed and deliberate, rather than reactive. When you consistently own your life, external circumstances cannot dictate your happiness or success. Problems are no longer overwhelming, because you know you have the ability to act and manage outcomes. There is also a profound psychological effect of responsibility. People feel empowered when they act, rather than wait. Empowerment reduces anxiety and increases confidence. Each time a problem is addressed through responsible action, the mind recognizes the pattern. Challenges are manageable, and action produces results. This builds a positive cycle of confidence, clarity, and capability. Responsibility is about prioritizing what matters most. Daily choices shape long-term outcomes. Deciding to act on what is within your control prevents issues from growing unnecessarily. It ensures that small problems do not escalate into crises. It prevents regret from accumulating, because you know you handled matters promptly and intentionally. Life becomes lighter, clearer, and more predictable when responsibility is chosen consistently. The habit of responsibility also teaches patience in a practical way. You begin to understand that outcomes are not always immediate, but progress is inevitable when consistent action is taken. Problems are no longer intimidating, because you recognize that steady, responsible action resolves most issues over time. Patience combined with responsibility creates stability and reduces anxiety about the unknown. Responsibility also affects relationships positively. People who take responsibility for their actions and decisions become more trustworthy. Conflicts are resolved more efficiently, communication improves, and mutual respect grows. Others are less likely to feel frustrated or resentful when everyone involved is accountable. Responsibility strengthens collaboration and connection. It is essential to remember that responsibility is not about perfection. Mistakes will occur. Problems may not vanish instantly. The key is ownership, acknowledging errors, taking corrective action, and preventing repetition are the hallmarks of responsibility. Perfection is not required. Consistency and commitment are. Responsibility builds clarity. When you choose to respond to challenges, the mind sees a path forward. Options become visible. Solutions appear actionable. Problems that once seemed overwhelming shrink because they are confronted directly and thoughtfully. This clarity improves decision-making, focus, and mental energy. Every day provides an opportunity to choose responsibility. Small choices, when accumulated, produce large results. Addressing issues promptly, following through on commitments, and taking ownership of mistakes creates momentum. Momentum reduces resistance. Momentum ensures progress. Life becomes less about reacting to circumstances and more about intentionally shaping your future. Ultimately, responsibility eliminates unnecessary power from problems. Most problems are not inherently unmanageable. Their influence depends on how much attention, fear, or delay we allow. Choosing responsibility daily removes that influence. Problems lose energy. Challenges become manageable. Stress diminishes. Life becomes more controlled, balanced, and fulfilling. Choosing responsibility is not a one-time act. It is a habit cultivated daily. Each morning presents opportunities to accept ownership of your choices, your reactions,
and your commitments. Every decision to respond responsibly reinforces the habit. Over time, this becomes the foundation for a life where 95% of problems either never arise or never grow beyond manageable size. Responsibility is the single habit that transforms problems into opportunities, weakness into strength, and fear into confidence. It places control in your hands, clears your mind, strengthens your relationships, and builds character. By choosing responsibility daily, you watch problems lose power, challenges shrink, and your life expand into clarity, capability, and freedom. This is the habit that changes everything, quietly, powerfully, and permanently.
Chapter 2. Act immediately when something feels wrong or unfinished. There is a subtle signal inside everyone that warns when something is wrong or unfinished. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is persistent. A feeling of unease, a small nagging thought, a tension that you cannot explain. These are not random. They are indicators that a situation requires attention. Most people notice these signals and then ignore them. They hope the feeling will fade, that circumstances will resolve themselves, or that someone else will take action. Ignoring this signal gives small problems the space to grow into major challenges. Acting immediately when you feel something is wrong or incomplete is a skill that prevents complications and restores control over your life. Unfinished matters are not harmless. They take up space in your mind even when you are not consciously thinking about them. They create low-level stress that interrupts focus, drains energy, and reduces clarity. A conversation left unresolved can replay in your mind, distracting you from work, sleep, or rest. An obligation postponed quietly gains power by remaining unsettled. Acting immediately interrupts this process. It signals to your mind that the situation is being handled, releasing mental pressure and restoring balance. Many people wait for certainty before responding to discomfort. They want to know the full scope of a problem, to be fully prepared, or to wait for the perfect moment. Life does not operate on perfect timing or complete information. Problems left unaddressed rarely resolve themselves. They expand and complicate themselves while waiting for your hesitation to end. Acting immediately does not require perfection. It requires engagement. It requires acknowledgement and small, deliberate action before the issue escalates. Immediate action transforms perception. When you address something as soon as it arises, your mind stops seeing it as a looming threat. Early action allows for measured responses. You gain clarity about the nature of the problem and the steps required to address it. Avoidance clouds judgment. Delay increases emotional weight. Acting promptly clears the mental fog, creating space to think strategically and solve problems effectively. This habit also strengthens confidence. Each time you confront an unfinished task, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of handling challenges. Confidence grows because you have proof of your ability to take control. By contrast, delaying action reinforces self-doubt. It teaches the mind that hesitation is acceptable and that problems are stronger than your capacity to respond. Acting immediately interrupts this pattern and rewires thinking toward effectiveness and reliability. Small issues often appear insignificant, yet they compound quietly over time. A forgotten email, a delayed response, a minor disagreement left unaddressed. These items accumulate in mental and emotional space. Each one requires energy to ignore, creates tension in relationships, and introduces unnecessary stress. Acting immediately prevents accumulation. The sooner you respond, the smaller and more manageable the problem remains. Preventing escalation is always easier than solving a crisis. Emotional clarity is enhanced when action is prompt. Waiting allows fear, frustration, and uncertainty to grow. You imagine consequences that are often worse than reality. Acting immediately prevents these emotions from taking over. You deal with the situation itself instead of reacting to imagined scenarios. Prompt response fosters calm, measured thinking and strengthens resilience. This habit is also essential in relationships. Avoiding difficult conversations or delaying responses creates misunderstandings and tension. Acting promptly communicates respect, responsibility and integrity. It prevents resentment from growing. It demonstrates that you value the relationship enough to handle issues directly. When both parties take responsibility to address discomfort quickly, trust is reinforced and conflicts are resolved before they escalate. At work, acting immediately reduces mistakes and maintains momentum. Tasks left incomplete multiply in complexity as time passes. Missed deadlines, overlooked details and delayed decisions create pressure that could have been avoided. Early action allows for course correction before problems grow too large. It keeps projects on track, reduces stress, and creates a culture of reliability. Acting promptly also sharpens decision-making skills. Regularly confronting issues as they arise trains the mind to evaluate situations quickly, consider consequences, and take decisive action. It develops mental agility and enhances problem-solving ability. Avoidance, on the other hand, dulls judgment and prolongs indecision. By choosing action, you strengthen your capacity to navigate challenges with clarity and confidence. One of the most overlooked benefits of this habit is the effect on your internal dialogue. When you ignore problems, your mind often rehearses mistakes, unresolved issues, and what-ifs. This mental chatter erodes focus, energy, and confidence. Acting immediately stops the rehearsal. You redirect attention from worry to action. You regain control over your thoughts instead of letting them control you. Immediate action fosters accountability. By responding promptly, you take ownership of your life and circumstance. You refuse to allow external factors to dictate your experience. Ownership strengthens self-respect and teaches others that you can be relied upon. People naturally trust those who address challenges head-on, knowing they will not ignore responsibilities or delay solutions. This habit cultivates resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges are inevitable. When you act immediately, setbacks are contained before they spiral out of control. You face problems while they are still manageable. Resilience grows because you demonstrate to yourself repeatedly that you can handle difficulty, uncertainty, and complexity without being overwhelmed. Acting promptly also protects time. Unfinished tasks and delayed actions consume mental bandwidth, divert attention, and create inefficiency. By addressing issues immediately, you prevent the unnecessary extension of problems. Time is used productively, energy is preserved, and momentum is maintained. Efficiency is not just about speed, it is about preventing small issues from growing into unmanageable burdens. This habit reinforces trust in yourself. When you take action at the first signal of a problem, you prove that you can be relied upon to handle challenges. You stop questioning your capacity and start reinforcing your belief in your competence. Self-trust is essential because it underpins confidence, decision-making, and long-term success. Delaying action weakens that trust and leaves you dependent on circumstances rather than your own ability. Immediate action prevents regret. Most people regret not acting rather than acting incorrectly. When you address what is wrong or unfinished early, you avoid the accumulation of missed opportunities. Regret diminishes because choices are made and steps are taken to correct or resolve issues. Action creates closure, reduces mental burden, and builds a sense of accomplishment. The habit of acting immediately also strengthens focus. Problems left unresolved fragment attention. They compete for mental resources and reduce capacity to concentrate on what matters. Prompt action removes distractions. Mental energy is available for problem solving, creative work, and strategic thinking. Focus is sharpened when unresolved issues do not occupy space in the mind. This practice encourages mindfulness. Paying attention to discomfort and acting on it requires awareness of the present moment. You recognize what needs attention now rather than postponing it. Mindfulness combined with immediate action prevents the mind from becoming reactive or passive. It ensures that energy is applied where it is most effective. Acting immediately reduces stress in a measurable way. Delays create anticipation, worry, and tension. Action eliminates uncertainty and restores a sense of control. Even small corrective steps reduce emotional load, making life more manageable and decisions easier. Problems do not vanish instantly, but their emotional impact is minimized. This habit strengthens integrity. Integrity is consistency between awareness and action. When you notice something is wrong and address it, your internal values align with your behavior. Integrity builds self-respect and credibility. People notice when you act in accordance with your recognition of what needs attention, enhancing relationships and influence. Immediate action cultivates courage. Confronting what is uncomfortable or difficult requires stepping beyond fear. Each action taken reinforces courage and diminishes avoidance. Over time, facing small challenges consistently strengthens confidence to handle larger challenges with composure and clarity. The habit also supports long-term growth. Problems that are addressed early do not grow into crises that limit opportunity. Acting immediately creates space for learning, adaptation, and personal development. Life progresses smoothly when obstacles are managed promptly and efficiently. Prompt action improves communication. Misunderstandings often arise from delayed responses. A quick clarification, a timely apology, or immediate follow-up prevents assumptions and misinterpretation. Communication becomes clear and effective, reducing conflict and building trust. Relationships benefit because problems are addressed before they escalate. Acting immediately enhances emotional regulation. When you respond promptly, emotions are channeled constructively. Anxiety, frustration, and fear are managed before they intensify. Delay allows emotions to accumulate and erupt unpredictably. Action maintains equilibrium and creates an environment for rational thinking and effective problem solving. This habit is empowering. Waiting for external conditions to improve before acting is disempowering. Acting promptly affirms that you control your choices and responses. It restores authority over your life and reduces the sense of being at the mercy of circumstances. Empowerment comes from realizing that action is always available, even when conditions are not ideal. Prompt action prevents escalation. Problems rarely remain contained if left unaddressed. Small misunderstandings, minor errors, or neglected responsibilities grow quietly into larger, more complex issues. Acting immediately stops this progression, keeps matters manageable, and prevents unnecessary complication. You begin to recognize problems earlier, respond faster, and prevent unnecessary stress. Anticipation of discomfort becomes a signal for constructive action rather than avoidance. This mental conditioning produces efficiency, clarity, and confidence. Acting immediately reinforces discipline. Discipline is strengthened each time you respond to an internal signal. You learn to act before hesitation becomes habit, before fear paralyzes, and before procrastination dictates behavior. Consistency in this habit leads to reliability and mastery over your choices. Taking action immediately also ensures that responsibility is fulfilled. You stop passing the burden to others or waiting for intervention. Ownership of outcomes improves performance, reduces reliance on chance, and cultivates independence. Life becomes more predictable and under your control. Ultimately, acting immediately when something feels wrong or unfinished is a habit that prevents problems from growing unnecessarily, strengthens resilience, sharpens focus, reduces stress,
and builds integrity and self-trust. The practice turns hesitation into confidence, discomfort into clarity, and small issues into manageable tasks. Daily commitment to this habit transforms life because you handle challenges while they are still small, maintaining control over circumstances and creating a path toward consistency, growth, and peace.
Chapter 3. Control your response before emotions hijack your next move. Emotions are powerful forces that influence every decision we make. They arise spontaneously, often without warning, and they can guide actions in ways that are constructive or destructive. The challenge is that most people allow emotions to dictate behavior before thought has a chance to intervene. Anger, fear, frustration, or even excitement can hijack judgment and lead to choices that create regret, conflict, or missed opportunities. The ability to control your response before emotions take control is not just a skill. It is a habit that protects your life, your relationships, and your future. Mastering this habit requires awareness, patience, and deliberate action. Every emotion is a signal, not a command. Emotions communicate what your mind and body are experiencing in the moment, but they do not determine what you must do. Recognizing the difference is critical. Anger does not demand that you yell. Fear does not require inaction. Frustration does not mean you abandon effort. By pausing to observe emotion rather than immediately reacting, you create the space to choose a response that aligns with long-term goals instead of short-term impulses. This pause is where control begins. Most people mistake emotion for reality. When someone criticizes us, we feel attacked, even if no harm was intended. When a setback occurs, we feel defeated, even when solutions are available. Allowing emotions to dictate response amplifies these false perceptions and clouds judgment. Controlling your response requires separating the situation from the emotional reaction. You acknowledge feelings without surrendering to them. This separation is what transforms emotion from a controlling force into a guiding signal. Awareness is the foundation of response control. You must notice when emotions arise, identify their source, and understand their impact on your thinking. This requires honesty and observation. When frustration appears, ask what triggered it. When fear rises, ask what assumption is driving it. By analyzing emotions, you gain insight into patterns and vulnerabilities that influence behavior. Awareness enables conscious choice. Without it, reactions are automatic, often harmful, and usually regretful. Patience is essential in controlling response. Immediate reaction is rarely the most effective course. Emotions demand speed, but deliberate action requires timing. Waiting even a few seconds allows the physiological surge of emotion to settle, giving your rational mind a chance to assess the situation. This brief pause can prevent conflict, poor judgment, and unnecessary stress. Patience is not passive, it is strategic. It ensures that the next move is intentional, not impulsive. Self-discipline reinforces the ability to respond thoughtfully. Controlling emotion is not suppression, it is regulation. Discipline means choosing action, consistent with values and objectives, rather than letting the intensity of feeling determine behavior. Developing this skill requires practice. Start with small triggers, situations that provoke mild discomfort, and practice responding deliberately. Over time, the habit generalizes to more intense emotional moments, creating a stable foundation for decision-making under pressure. The habit of controlling responses before emotions hijack action also strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably present situations that provoke anger, fear, or anxiety. When you consistently manage your responses, you reduce the emotional toll these situations take. You maintain composure and clarity, even under stress. Resilience is not built in comfort, It is cultivated by confronting discomfort with control and intention. Each time you practice restraint, you reinforce the neural pathways that support thoughtful action and diminish impulsive reaction. Emotional hijacking often escalates conflicts. Arguments, misunderstandings, and tension grow when people respond before thinking. By controlling your response, you diffuse potential escalation. Calm, measured reactions reduce defensive behavior in others and foster constructive dialogue. Relationships improve because people feel heard, understood, and respected, rather than attacked or dismissed. Influence increases because others trust that your decisions and words are deliberate, not reactive. Control over response also protects decision-making. Many people make irreversible choices when emotions are at their peak. Investments, professional moves, and personal relationships can all suffer when actions are driven by anger, anxiety, or excitement. Responding thoughtfully allows for assessment of options, evaluation of consequences, and alignment with goals. Decisions made with controlled emotion are durable, strategic, and constructive. Impulsive decisions rarely yield positive long-term outcomes. Physical awareness supports emotional regulation. Emotions manifest physically. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, and breath becomes shallow. By recognizing these cues, you can intervene before emotion dictates action. Techniques such as slowing breathing, relaxing posture, or stepping back create the physiological conditions for calm decision-making. Physical regulation is inseparable from mental control. One reinforces the other. This connection ensures that your next move is deliberate rather than reactive. Language is another tool for response control. Words have power. Speaking hastily or while emotional can damage relationships, reputation, and opportunities. Controlling the timing, tone, and content of communication ensures that expression serves purpose rather than satisfies impulse. Thoughtful language demonstrates intelligence, respect, and stability. People are drawn to those who speak with intention rather than reactively. The ability to respond calmly and clearly fosters credibility and influence in all areas of life. Reflection strengthens response control. After intense emotional experiences, analyzing what occurred and how you reacted enhances awareness for future situations. Reflection reveals triggers, ineffective responses, and patterns that can be adjusted. Continuous improvement in managing responses is cultivated through mindful review. Each experience becomes a lesson, each challenge an opportunity to refine the habit of deliberate response. Anticipation is also valuable. Understanding your emotional patterns and the types of situations that provoke strong reactions allows for preparation. When you know a particular scenario triggers frustration or anxiety, you can plan responses in advance. Anticipation does not remove emotion, but it creates readiness. Preparedness allows you to act from control rather than be swept by intensity. Repeated practice strengthens confidence and consistency. This habit also improves long-term emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not about suppressing feeling, but understanding it and responding appropriately. By controlling responses, you develop insight into your emotional life, improve empathy, and strengthen interpersonal interactions. You become capable of navigating complex social dynamics with composure. Emotional intelligence grows naturally from the repeated practice of measured responses. Immediate interventions are sometimes necessary. Not all emotional hijacks require long analysis. Rapid response is sometimes the best form of control. The difference is that the response is calculated, aligned with principles, and intentionally chosen, rather than an unthinking reaction. Training for this involves scenario planning, mental rehearsal, and deliberate practice. The mind learns to act decisively under pressure,
without succumbing to uncontrolled emotion. Response control builds confidence, knowing that you can face any provocation or unexpected event without losing composure, reduces fear and hesitation. Confidence increases because you trust your ability to handle challenges. Others also sense this confidence, which reinforces influence, credibility, and leadership. Emotional stability becomes a visible trait that others rely upon and respect. This habit also minimizes regret. Impulsive reactions are a common source of remorse. Words said in anger, decisions made from fear, or actions taken under stress often create consequences that cannot be undone. Responding after assessment reduces regret by ensuring that actions are appropriate, effective, and aligned with values. Life becomes cleaner, interactions smoother, and self-respect stronger. Mental rehearsal strengthens response control. Visualizing potential scenarios and practicing deliberate responses enhances readiness. The mind becomes familiar with acting under emotional stress without surrendering to impulse. Over time, the habit becomes automatic. Control emerges naturally because the brain has learned a pattern of measured response. Anticipation and preparation reduce the likelihood of emotional hijacking. Accountability supports this habit. When you recognize your responsibility to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, you internalize the importance of control. Ownership of emotional management strengthens character and reinforces long-term consistency. Accountability ensures that control is not situational but habitual, forming the foundation for personal reliability and credibility. Controlled response also enhances creativity and problem-solving. Emotionally hijacked decisions often limit perspective. Calm, deliberate responses allow the mind to explore alternatives, identify solutions, and implement strategies effectively. Creativity flourishes when the mind is not dominated by reactive impulses. Problem-solving becomes a deliberate exercise rather than a stress-driven scramble. This habit reduces anxiety and stress. Emotional hijacks often amplify problems, making them appear larger than they are. Responding thoughtfully diminishes perceived threat and restores mental equilibrium. Anxiety decreases when the mind trusts its capacity to manage challenges without being overwhelmed. Stress diminishes because control, not chaos, governs behavior. Control over responses improves health. Chronic stress, high blood pressure, and emotional exhaustion often result from repeated emotional hijacking. By regulating reactions, the body experiences fewer spikes of stress hormones, more stable heart rate, and improved overall well-being. Physical health is a natural byproduct of emotional discipline. The habit also fosters stronger relationships. People are drawn to those who respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively. Conflicts are resolved more efficiently, communication improves, and respect deepens. Responding with control creates an environment of trust and reliability. Interactions become more meaningful because emotions do not sabotage connection. This practice develops leadership naturally. Leaders who control their responses inspire confidence. Teams, friends, and colleagues rely on steady judgment. Influence is earned through consistent demonstration of measured action. Leadership is not about dominance. It is about the ability to guide situations effectively without succumbing to emotion. Over time, controlling responses rewires the mind. Neural pathways strengthen where deliberate choice precedes reaction. The brain becomes accustomed to observing emotion, pausing, and selecting action consciously. This neurological change supports all areas of life, from professional challenges to personal relationships, creating a resilient, capable, and thoughtful mind. Finally, controlling responses before emotions hijack action is a habit that protects life, strengthens relationships, and enhances personal growth. It transforms potential chaos into order, regret into confidence, and impulsiveness into intention. Each time this habit is practiced, emotional power is channeled productively. Life becomes more manageable, decisions more effective, and opportunities more accessible. Mastery over responses is mastery over circumstances, and it creates the foundation for enduring success, peace, and fulfillment.
Chapter 4. Finish what you start to build self-trust. Finishing what you start is more than a task. It is a declaration of trust in yourself. Every commitment you begin is a reflection of intention, and completing it is a proof of reliability. Many people underestimate how much unfinished tasks influence self-esteem and confidence. Each time a project, goal, or promise is left incomplete, it subtly erodes faith in your own ability to follow through. This erosion is cumulative, affecting decisions, motivation, and relationships. Developing the habit of finishing what you start strengthens self-trust, reinforces personal accountability, and builds momentum for success in every area of life. Starting is easy, finishing is hard. Everyone has ideas, plans, and intentions that ignite excitement at the beginning. Energy is high, motivation is strong, and the vision is clear. Yet as challenges arise, interest wanes, obstacles appear, or other priorities intervene, momentum fades. This is the point where most people falter. Success is not measured by starting, but by the ability to persevere until completion. Finishing is what converts effort into results and intention into credibility. Each completed action is a building block of self-trust. Self-trust grows through consistency. Completing tasks repeatedly teaches your mind that you can rely on yourself. It reinforces the idea that you are capable, disciplined, and committed. This trust is the foundation for confidence in decision-making. When you know you will follow through, choices become easier and hesitation diminishes. In contrast, leaving things unfinished fosters doubt and indecision. Each incomplete task whispers uncertainty into your mind, undermining confidence in future endeavors. Obstacles are inevitable in every project. Difficulty, resistance, and distraction test commitment. People who finish what they start do not avoid challenges, they confront them, they develop strategies, adjust plans, and persist through adversity. Each obstacle overcome reinforces the belief that effort, when sustained, produces results. Self-trust grows because actions match words, intentions translate into outcomes, and reliability becomes evident through achievement. Prioritization is essential. Many projects fail to reach completion because attention is scattered across too many fronts. Focus is required to ensure energy, time, and resources align with what truly matters. Learning to prioritize prevents dilution of effort and increases the likelihood of follow-through. It demonstrates respect for commitments and strengthens internal accountability. Completing what matters most ensures that your trust in yourself is founded on meaningful achievements rather than arbitrary activity. Breaking tasks into manageable steps supports completion. Large undertakings often feel overwhelming, prompting procrastination or abandonment. By dividing work into actionable, measurable segments, the mind perceives progress and maintains motivation. Each step completed reinforces capability and signals that the task is attainable. The act of finishing even small components contributes to a cumulative sense of self-reliance. Momentum builds when consistent, incremental progress is achieved. Deadlines reinforce the habit of completion. Time-bound goals create structure, discipline, and urgency. Open-ended projects tend to tinny, inviting distraction and loss of interest. Setting deadlines transforms intention into action. The commitment to finish by a specific point teaches accountability and reinforces the expectation that tasks will be completed. Over time, the mind internalizes this discipline, producing consistent follow-through without external pressure. Self-awareness is critical in building this habit. Recognizing patterns of procrastination, avoidance, or distraction allows for intervention before projects are abandoned. Awareness enables proactive planning, adjustment, and self-correction. Reflection on why tasks are left incomplete reveals tendencies that can be addressed, preventing repetition of unproductive behaviors. Awareness is the first step in transforming intention into completion and fostering trust in your ability to act reliably. External accountability amplifies the effect of finishing what you start. Sharing goals with others, reporting progress, or committing publicly increases motivation to follow through. Accountability creates external reinforcement that aligns with internal commitment. People who consistently finish projects signal reliability to themselves and others. Trust grows both internally as confidence in capability increases and externally as others recognize dependability. Completion enhances learning and growth. Every finished task provides feedback, insight, and experience that incomplete efforts cannot offer. By seeing projects through, you gain knowledge of what works, what requires adjustment, and how to improve. These lessons inform future decisions, refine skills, and reinforce the connection between effort and outcome. Self-trust is strengthened because the evidence of learning is tangible and directly tied to action. The habit of finishing what you start also reduces mental clutter. Unfinished tasks occupy mental space, creating stress, distraction, and a sense of incompleteness. Each unresolved item competes for attention, lowering productivity and focus. Completion frees mental energy, allowing concentration on new opportunities, goals, and creative endeavors. A mind unburdened by loose ends is more capable, focused, and confident, reinforcing the sense that you can rely on yourself to see things through. Discipline develops through repeated completion. Discipline is built not through sporadic effort, but through consistent practice of follow-through. Each project finished reinforces the capacity to persist, focus, and act in alignment with intention. Discipline strengthens the ability to resist distraction, overcome resistance, and maintain consistency. Over time, the habit of completion becomes a defining characteristic, shaping behavior across all domains of life. Finishing what you start reinforces credibility in relationships. Whether in business, friendship, or family, people notice when commitments are honored. Reliability builds respect, trust, and influence. Others are more likely to engage, collaborate, and support your initiatives when they see consistent follow-through. Trustworthiness extends beyond personal satisfaction. It creates a positive environment for cooperation, mutual support, and shared achievement. Emotional resilience grows as tasks are completed. Each finished project demonstrates the ability to persist despite difficulty, disappointment, or frustration. Completing work reinforces confidence in handling future challenges. Emotional strength increases because actions consistently match intention. You internalize the lesson that effort produces results, and that setbacks do not prevent accomplishment. This internal reinforcement strengthens both performance and mental fortitude. The process of completion also strengthens decision-making skills. By seeing projects through, you learn to plan effectively, anticipate obstacles, and adjust strategies. Completion provides feedback loops that refine judgment, improve foresight, and enhance problem-solving capacity. Self-trust is supported by experience, showing that thoughtful action produces reliable outcomes and measurable progress. Completion teaches the value of commitment. In a world of distraction and transient attention, honoring your word to yourself is a form of integrity. Consistently finishing what you start communicates that intentions are real, efforts are deliberate, and promises are meaningful. Integrity develops internally, shaping self-perception, and externally, shaping how others perceive and interact with you. Finishing tasks also strengthens focus. Distractions are minimized when attention is devoted to completion, rather than scattered effort.
Focus is both an enabler and a result of consistent follow-through. The mind learns to prioritize effort, resist diversions, and maintain concentration until objectives are achieved. This focus builds competence, confidence, and the internal assurance that you can depend on yourself. Confidence and self-trust are interlinked. Completing tasks produces tangible evidence of capability. This evidence fuels self-belief and reinforces a positive feedback loop. The more you finish, the more capable you feel, and the more capable you feel, the more likely you are to take action. Abandoning projects interrupts this loop, eroding confidence and leaving doubt in its place. Consistent completion strengthens the foundation for long-term personal empowerment. Finishing what you start also minimizes regret. Regret often arises from unfulfilled potential, abandoned effort, or ignored commitment. Each completed task removes the what-if question and replaces it with accomplishment. A history of follow-through creates a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and clarity that incomplete work cannot provide. Life becomes cleaner, decisions are reinforced, and mental space is freed for future achievements. This habit fosters patience and perseverance. Completing long-term projects requires enduring commitment over time. It teaches the value of sustained effort, delayed gratification, and strategic persistence. Patience grows because the mind learns that worthwhile outcomes demand consistent attention. Perseverance is reinforced through experience, showing that persistence produces results, even when challenges arise. Accountability to yourself is strengthened through completion. Each finished project is proof that your intentions align with your actions. Self-trust grows because you see that your word to yourself carries weight. The mind internalizes that promises, goals, and plans are actionable commitments. Personal credibility develops, reinforcing confidence and reliability across all areas of life. Momentum is created through consistent follow-through. Every task finished generates energy, motivation, and clarity to approach the next challenge. Momentum compounds as habits of completion reinforce one another. Starting becomes easier because the mind expects follow-through. Progress accelerates and confidence increases, creating a cycle of achievement and self-reliance. Completion also teaches responsibility. When projects are finished, you own outcomes. Successes are celebrated, mistakes are learned from, and accountability is maintained. Responsibility is empowering because it acknowledges the connection between effort and result. Personal growth accelerates when each step, each task, and each commitment is honored until the end. Self-trust built through completion extends into all areas of life. Financial decisions, career goals, personal relationships, and health habits all benefit from the discipline of follow-through. Reliability becomes a default setting in behavior, shaping opportunities and outcomes. Others notice and respond positively, creating a reinforcing cycle of trust, respect, and achievement. Finally, finishing what you start is a habit that strengthens the mind, reinforces self-respect, enhances relationships, and produces tangible results. It transforms intention into action, uncertainty into confidence, and potential into accomplishment. Every completed task is evidence of capability, reliability, and persistence. The habit cultivates focus, discipline, patience, and resilience. Life becomes more orderly, intentional, and empowered. Self-trust is built one completed action at a time, creating a foundation for lasting success, peace, and fulfillment.
Chapter 5. Reduce chaos by doing small, boring tasks first. Life often feels overwhelming because small, simple tasks pile up and create invisible pressure. Many people wait for the perfect moment to tackle responsibilities, thinking they are too minor to matter. This approach leads to chaos, stress, and a sense that everything is spinning out of control. Small, seemingly boring tasks, when ignored, accumulate into large problems. The key to reducing chaos and regaining control is to address these tasks immediately. Taking care of small responsibilities first clears mental space, restores focus, and builds momentum for more significant actions. This habit is simple, yet its impact on productivity, clarity, and personal power is enormous. Most people underestimate the power of small tasks. Sending emails, paying bills, tidying a workspace, or completing minor chores can feel trivial, but postponing them creates tension. The brain subconsciously notes unfinished responsibilities, generating stress even when attention is elsewhere. This background stress drains energy and reduces the capacity for focus, creativity, and decision-making. By tackling small tasks first, you remove these hidden stressors and allow the mind to operate freely. The act of completion, no matter how mundane, sets a precedent for action and discipline. Small tasks are often boring because they lack excitement or immediate reward, yet they are the foundation of order. Organization begins with basics. Completing minor duties establishes structure, signals control, and cultivates a sense of achievement. When these tasks are done, the environment becomes more manageable, mental clutter decreases, and the path to more significant goals becomes clear. This habit is not about glorifying busy work, it is about creating conditions where success becomes possible. Consistency in handling small tasks is critical. Doing these actions sporadically offers little benefit, because unfinished tasks continue to accumulate. A routine ensures that small responsibilities are addressed promptly, reducing mental friction and preventing chaos from taking hold. Each completed task reinforces reliability and builds the expectation that responsibilities will be handled. This consistency forms the backbone of personal efficiency, mental clarity, and long-term productivity. Completing small tasks first also builds momentum. Action generates energy, and energy encourages further action. When the mind experiences the satisfaction of finishing minor responsibilities, it becomes easier to tackle larger, more challenging projects. Momentum compounds, transforming a sense of overwhelm into a sequence of accomplishments. Starting with small, mundane work might seem insignificant, but it primes the mind for meaningful productivity and sustained focus. Addressing boring tasks immediately reduces procrastination. Many people delay small responsibilities, thinking they can handle them later, only to find that delay compounds stress. Procrastination is a form of self-sabotage that multiplies challenges unnecessarily. Handling minor tasks first interrupts this cycle, allowing action to lead rather than fear, avoidance, or indecision. Over time, the habit creates a mindset of responsibility, initiative, and proactive engagement. Small tasks often involve decision-making that, if delayed, clogs mental bandwidth. Choosing, prioritizing, and executing minor actions clears space for more significant strategic thinking. The brain functions more efficiently when clutter is removed. Mental energy is a finite resource, and unfinished tasks silently consume it. Completing them first frees attention, reduces cognitive load, and allows for higher quality decisions. Clarity and focus emerge naturally when the mind is unburdened by unresolved duties. Discipline is reinforced through the habit of handling minor responsibility immediately. Discipline is not solely about managing large goals, it is cultivated in everyday decisions. Choosing to complete a small, boring task despite disinterest or distraction trains the mind to act with intentionality. This practice strengthens character, increases accountability, and develops the internal expectation that work will be done promptly. The habit transfers to larger challenges, enhancing overall effectiveness. The psychological impact of completing small tasks is significant. Each accomplishment, no matter how minor, triggers a sense of achievement, satisfaction, and control. These positive emotions reinforce the behavior, making it easier to continue addressing tasks in a timely manner. Conversely, leaving small duties incomplete generates subtle anxiety, frustration, and a sense of disorganization. Mental peace is built one small task at a time. Prioritization of tasks also benefits from handling small duties first. When minor responsibilities are resolved, the mind is free to focus on higher priority goals without distraction. Important work receives undivided attention because the baseline of order has been established. Chaos diminishes not through grand gestures, but through consistent, thoughtful completion of the basics. Order creates the conditions in which excellence becomes possible. Small tasks influence relationships as well. Responsibilities toward others, no matter how minor, signal reliability and respect. Paying attention to detail, fulfilling commitments, and addressing obligations promptly communicates integrity and trustworthiness. This consistency strengthens credibility in both personal and professional contexts. People notice reliability even in mundane actions, and respect grows as trust is reinforced through repeated demonstration of responsibility. The act of doing small tasks first fosters time management. Completing minor duties quickly allows more time and energy for complex or creative work later. It reduces the need to constantly revisit unfinished items and eliminates the inefficiency of repeated attention. Time becomes a tool rather than a source of stress. The habit transforms a reactive approach to life into a proactive, controlled and organized framework. Accountability grows through this habit. When small responsibilities are addressed consistently, self-discipline becomes ingrained. You internalize the principle that action precedes delay, and completion precedes chaos. Trust in yourself strengthens because you see evidence that your commitments, no matter how minor, are honored. Personal reliability is built over time, creating a stable foundation for larger accomplishments and more complex challenges. Efficiency improves with the completion of small tasks. Workflow becomes smoother, interruptions are reduced, and focus deepens. The brain is free to concentrate on high-value work instead of juggling unfinished duties in the background. Productivity rises naturally when mundane but essential responsibilities are consistently managed. Small tasks, though seemingly insignificant, create the framework for disciplined, effective action in every aspect of life. Handling minor duties first reduces stress during critical moments. Emergencies, deadlines, and high-pressure situations are less chaotic when the baseline of small responsibilities is complete. Preparedness emerges because clutter and unfinished business do not amplify urgency unnecessarily. Stress management is a byproduct of order, which is cultivated through attention to details that most people neglect. Control over small tasks equates to control over larger life circumstances. The habit develops foresight and planning skills. Regularly attending to minor responsibilities encourages anticipation of potential challenges, identification of priorities, and organization of effort. The mind becomes accustomed to noticing what needs to be done, estimating effort, and executing tasks efficiently. This foresight prevents minor issues from becoming emergencies, reducing reactive stress, and allowing strategic focus. This practice strengthens confidence. Completing small responsibilities consistently demonstrates competence and reliability. Self-esteem grows because actions align with intention. Confidence extends into larger, more complex domains because the mind learns that execution is reliable and consistent. Trust in personal capability becomes a natural byproduct of repeated, disciplined action on tasks that others might overlook. The habit also enhances adaptability. By maintaining order through attention to small tasks, the mind is more agile and responsive to unexpected challenges. Chaos diminishes because the foundation of control has been established. Flexibility grows because energy is not wasted on mitigating avoidable disorder. Adaptability thrives in environments where the basics are managed efficiently and consistently. Persistence is cultivated through consistent attention to minor responsibilities. Repeatedly completing tasks that feel boring or unimportant develops endurance, patience, and commitment.
This persistence translates into larger projects and long-term goals. The mind internalizes that effort is valuable, even when immediate excitement is absent. Perseverance becomes a defining trait because discipline is exercised daily, in the details. Small tasks also enhance problem-solving capacity. Unfinished responsibilities create mental noise that clouds judgment. By addressing these items promptly, the mind achieves clarity, allowing better analysis, creativity and decision-making. Challenges are met with focus and precision, rather than frustration and overwhelm. Problem-solving becomes more deliberate and effective when foundational duties are completed first. Motivation increases through action. Waiting for inspiration to tackle tasks often leads to delay. Action itself generates energy. Completing small mundane tasks triggers momentum that drives further engagement. Motivation becomes a consequence of doing rather than a prerequisite, reversing the common pattern of procrastination and stagnation. Momentum builds naturally when action precedes emotion. Health and well-being are indirectly supported. Mental clutter, stress, and chronic anxiety are reduced when small tasks are handled efficiently. Emotional balance improves, cognitive load decreases, and a sense of control fosters peace of mind. Simple actions, though individually minor, create conditions for mental and emotional stability that compound over time. Finally, reducing chaos by doing small boring tasks first is a habit that transforms life. It creates structure, discipline, focus, and momentum. Stress diminishes, mental clarity improves, and confidence grows. Relationships benefit from reliability and consistency. Productivity and efficiency increase because the mind is free to focus on meaningful priorities. The habit teaches responsibility, patience, persistence, and foresight. Life becomes more manageable, intentional, and empowered. Small actions, consistently applied, yield large lasting benefits, proving that mastery of the mundane is the key to order, success, and fulfillment.
Chapter 6. Speak less. Choose better words. Protect relationships daily. The way we communicate shapes the quality of our relationships and the trajectory of our lives. Words have power, and once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Many people speak impulsively, reacting to situations without thought, only to regret the impact later. A single careless word can damage trust, create conflict, or leave lasting impressions that are difficult to repair. Choosing to speak less and carefully selecting words is not about being silent, it is about being intentional. It is about protecting relationships, preserving trust, and creating meaningful connections. The discipline of speech is a tool for influence, respect, and personal growth. Speaking less begins with awareness of the mind. Thoughts rush through constantly, and often we feel compelled to express every idea or opinion. However, not every thought is worth verbalizing. Awareness allows observation of mental chatter and the ability to filter what is communicated. Pausing before speaking creates space to evaluate the potential impact of words. This pause, brief as it may be, transforms reactive speech into deliberate communication, reducing unnecessary tension and misunderstanding. Intentional word choice builds credibility. People notice when communication is thoughtful, precise, and purposeful. Careless speech erodes respect because it signals a lack of consideration. When words are chosen with attention to clarity, tone, and impact, influence grows. People listen more attentively and respond more positively to speech that demonstrates understanding and restraint. Speaking less but with intention magnifies presence, authority, and trust. Protecting relationships through speech requires empathy. Every conversation involves another person with emotions, experiences, and vulnerabilities. Words can support, validate, and inspire, or they can wound, alienate, and frustrate. By considering the perspective of others before speaking, communication becomes constructive rather than destructive. Empathy in speech fosters connection, deepens trust, and encourages open dialogue. Relationships thrive when conversations are guided by awareness of emotional impact. Silence is a strategic tool. Choosing not to speak when provoked, when angry, or when uncertain prevents escalation and preserves harmony. Silence provides time for reflection, analysis, and composure. It communicates self-control and respect. Many conflicts arise from impulsive speech rather than irreconcilable differences. Exercising restraint allows relationships to remain intact while maintaining dignity and credibility. Precision in language eliminates confusion. Vague or careless expressions often lead to misunderstanding, frustration, and mistake. Choosing words that accurately convey intention reduces miscommunication and increases efficiency in interactions. Precision demonstrates thoughtfulness, competence, and respect for others' time and attention. Speaking less while speaking clearly ensures that communication is meaningful, impactful, and constructive. Self-control in speech strengthens emotional regulation. Impulsive talking is often a response to strong emotions like anger, frustration, or anxiety. By practicing restraint and mindfulness, the mind gains the ability to respond rather than react. Controlled speech reflects maturity and composure, reinforcing self-trust and reliability. People are drawn to those who handle their words carefully because it signals stability and thoughtfulness. Listening is amplified when speaking less. The more we restrain speech, the more room we create to hear, understand, and process others' words. Active listening strengthens relationships because it communicates attention, respect, and value. People feel acknowledged and understood when interruptions are minimized and responses are deliberate. Speaking less is not passive, it is an active strategy to enhance comprehension and deepen connections. Consistency in communication builds trust. Predictable, respectful, and intentional speech demonstrates reliability. Others learn that interactions are measured, deliberate, and thoughtful. When words align with actions, credibility is reinforced and influence grows. In contrast, inconsistent or impulsive speech generates doubt, tension, and insecurity in relationships. Speaking less with care ensures consistency in how others perceive character, competence, and reliability. Choosing words carefully prevents unnecessary conflict. Many arguments begin with offhand remarks, careless jokes, or reactive statements. Thoughtful communication anticipates possible interpretations and mitigates negative reactions. By framing speech deliberately, disagreements are minimized and relationships are preserved. Words become tools for building understanding rather than weapons that divide. Protecting relationships requires foresight, awareness, and intentionality in every conversation. Speech reflects value. The habit of speaking less and choosing words intentionally signals priorities, respect, clarity, and empathy. It communicates that relationships are valued over the need to dominate conversation or assert opinions. People internalize these cues and respond in kind. Respectful speech fosters a culture of mutual consideration, openness, and constructive interaction. Values become tangible through communication patterns, shaping both personal and professional environments. Clarity over volume ensures influence. Many people equate talking more with being persuasive or impressive, but influence is earned through precision, timing, and relevance. Speaking less encourages concise, meaningful contributions that resonate. Words delivered thoughtfully carry more weight and authority than constant, unfiltered dialogue. The habit of choosing words with intention amplifies impact, credibility, and leadership in conversations. Speech management reduces regret. Impulsive comments often lead to embarrassment, conflict, or guilt. Deliberate expression reduces the likelihood of saying things that are damaging or unnecessary. Protecting relationships requires foresight and caution in verbal interaction. Each thoughtful decision to speak or remain silent reinforces trust, respect, and stability in social, professional, and familial contexts. Repetition in speech is minimized when words are chosen carefully. Over-explaining, restating, or arguing excessively often diminishes authority and irritates listeners. Intentional communication avoids redundancy, keeping dialogue fresh, focused, and constructive. Speaking less encourages discipline in thought organization, concise expression, and purposeful engagement. People respond positively to those who communicate efficiently and respectfully. The habit fosters humility. Recognizing that not every thought or opinion needs to be voiced promotes modesty and patience. Speaking less allows room for others to contribute, acknowledges their expertise, and demonstrates openness. Relationships benefit from shared dialogue rather than monopolized conversation. Humility in speech signals confidence without arrogance, respect without submission, and engagement without control. Emotional intelligence is strengthened through selective speech. Awareness of tone, timing, and impact develops sensitivity to the emotional environment. People sense when words are intended to connect, support, or inform versus when they are careless or reactive. Emotional intelligence improves decision-making, negotiation, and collaboration. Speaking less, but with awareness, enhances the ability to navigate social dynamics, manage conflicts, and foster cooperation. The habit supports strategic influence. Carefully chosen words carry weight in persuasion, leadership, and negotiation. Speaking less ensures that each word contributes to the intended outcome. Influence grows not by volume, but by precision, relevance, and timing. People are more likely to respect, follow, and engage when speech reflects intentional thought rather than reactive impulse. Listening and reflection improve through reduced speech. The less the mind is occupied with verbal expression, the more space exists for processing information, analyzing situations, and observing dynamics. Reflection allows for better responses, decisions, and problem-solving. Speaking less enables preparation, understanding, and insight, enhancing both personal and interpersonal outcome. Patience is cultivated when communication is measured. Instant verbal reactions often arise from desire for immediate expression or validation. Deliberate speech exercises restraint, fosters calm, and encourages measured responses. Patience in communication promotes understanding, reduces conflict, and strengthens long-term relationships. This discipline develops confidence, self-respect, and reliability. Protecting relationships daily requires ongoing attention. It is a continuous practice of evaluating speech, observing reactions, and adjusting accordingly. Habits of reflection, restraint, and intentional expression prevent erosion of trust over time. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to reinforce respect, nurture connection, and demonstrate reliability. Speaking less and choosing words carefully becomes a daily investment in relational health. Positive reinforcement emerges from controlled speech. Thoughtful comments, encouragement, and constructive feedback strengthen connections and inspire collaboration. People respond positively to communication that prioritizes value over quantity. Speaking less magnifies the impact of meaningful contributions, making them more memorable, respected, and influential. Conflict prevention is reinforced through this habit. Many disputes originate from words spoken without consideration. By prioritizing silence,
reflection, and careful choice of expression. Unnecessary disagreements are avoided. Relationships remain stable, respectful, and cooperative. The discipline of speech acts as a preventative measure, minimizing unnecessary tension, frustration, and misunderstanding. Self-respect is strengthened through controlled speech. Speaking intentionally demonstrates mastery over impulses, confidence in expression, and personal integrity. It reflects awareness of the power of words and responsibility for their impact. People notice self-control and respond with respect, trust, and cooperation. Mastery of speech builds internal and external credibility simultaneously. Finally, speaking less and choosing words deliberately is a habit that transforms interactions, strengthens relationships, and enhances personal influence. It cultivates patience, clarity, empathy, emotional intelligence, and each conversation becomes an opportunity to protect trust, foster understanding, and inspire cooperation. The habit reinforces reliability, credibility, and respect. Life becomes more peaceful, focused, and empowered when speech is intentional. Choosing words carefully is not a limitation, it is a strategy for building stronger connections, preserving harmony, and creating meaningful impact in every interaction.
Chapter 7. Decide once each day, then stop reopening decisions. Decisions are the building blocks of life, yet most people underestimate how much time, energy, and clarity are wasted by repeatedly revisiting the same choices. Each decision carries weight, not just in immediate action but in mental and emotional energy. When a decision is made and continually reopened, it creates unnecessary stress, doubt, and distraction. The brain is burdened by unresolved options, and this mental clutter reduces focus, creativity, and productivity. The habit of deciding once each day and then committing fully liberates the mind, conserves energy, and strengthens confidence. Learning to make decisions decisively transforms not only efficiency but also the overall quality of life. Many people approach decisions with hesitation, overthinking every possible outcome, worrying about judgment or fearing mistakes. This hesitation creates mental loops where no progress is made, and every new piece of information reignites the same internal debate. Over time, this pattern erodes confidence and increases stress. Deciding once and moving forward requires trust in judgment, commitment to action, and faith in the ability to adapt when truly necessary. The first step toward decisive living is recognizing that endless reconsideration rarely improves outcomes, but always drains energy. Making decisions decisively begins with clarity about priorities. Knowing what matters most allows choices to align with values, goals, and responsibilities. When daily decisions are filtered through purpose, they are less likely to be revisited. Clarity reduces the cognitive load, prevents second-guessing, and reinforces alignment between intention and action. People who operate with this mindset experience a greater sense of control over their lives because decisions are anchored in principles rather than impulses or indecision. Commitment is the natural consequence of decisive decision-making. Once a choice is made, commitment ensures that energy is directed toward action rather than doubt. Each reopened decision represents lost time, wasted focus, and missed opportunities. By committing fully to decisions, even imperfect ones, forward momentum is maintained. Action reinforces confidence, strengthens problem-solving, and builds resilience. Deciding once daily is not about rigid inflexibility, it is about respecting the value of focus and preserving mental energy for meaningful effort. Reopening decisions often leads to anxiety and self-doubt. People replay scenarios, imagine consequences, and question their judgment repeatedly. This mental strain reduces productivity, erodes confidence and creates tension. By practicing the habit of deciding once and moving on, the mind is freed from unnecessary rumination. Energy is redirected toward execution, problem solving, and creative solutions rather than repetitive internal debate. Emotional stability is strengthened and confidence in judgment grows naturally. The practice of single decision-making promotes discipline. Discipline is exercised not only in completing tasks, but in choosing to stop questioning what has already been decided. Each day offers countless opportunities for choice, and without restraint, the mind can become entangled in trivial or repetitive consideration. Discipline allows the brain to focus on priorities, complete responsibilities efficiently, and engage fully in actions that matter. This habit fosters clarity, reduces chaos, and strengthens self-trust. Deciding once enhances productivity. The time spent re-evaluating decisions is time taken away from execution, creation, and learning. Every reopened decision is an invisible cost that accumulates into lost hours, missed opportunities, and reduced outcome. By making a conscious choice, documenting it if necessary, and then moving forward, efficiency is maximized. Mental energy previously spent on doubt is redirected into focus, action, and tangible result. Productivity improves not through doing more tasks, but through conserving energy for meaningful efforts. Confidence grows as decisiveness becomes routine. Each choice successfully executed reinforces trust in judgments. Experience demonstrates that most decisions are reversible or adaptable if unexpected circumstances arise, yet most of the time, excessive second-guessing is unnecessary. Confidence flourishes when energy is directed toward action rather than hesitation. Self-trust deepens, creating a virtuous cycle where decisions are made quickly, executed effectively, and followed through consistently. Deciding once each day simplifies life. The cumulative effect of repeated reconsideration is cognitive overload, emotional fatigue, and confusion. By establishing a practice of finality, the mind experiences relief, clarity, and direction. Simple decisions, when handled decisively, reduce unnecessary mental noise. Over time, this approach fosters an overall sense of calm, control, and competence, as the brain no longer carries the burden of unresolved choices. The habit also enhances problem solving. When energy is not wasted on revisiting the same decision, the mind is free to tackle new challenges with focus and creativity. Decisions executed confidently generate feedback, experience, and learning, which further improve future judgment. Hesitation and repeated second-guessing, in contrast, inhibit growth and limit progress. Deciding once daily accelerates development because energy is focused on learning from action rather than wasting it on doubt. Delegation and collaboration benefit from single decision discipline. When decisions are reopened constantly, it creates confusion and inconsistency for others involved. Teams and relationships thrive when communication is clear, decisions are final, and execution is consistent. People gain confidence in reliability, authority, and trustworthiness. This habit of decisiveness demonstrates leadership by creating clarity and preventing unnecessary disruption or conflict. Stress is reduced through committed decision-making. Indecision generates a subtle but constant tension that affects mood, focus, and overall well-being. Each time a choice is revisited, the brain experiences anxiety, uncertainty, and loss of control. By deciding once and moving forward, mental strain diminishes, allowing for a calmer, more focused, and resilient mindset. The cumulative benefit of stress reduction is profound, influencing both mental and physical health over time. Deciding once encourages foresight. To make effective choices, one must evaluate information efficiently, anticipate consequences, and weigh priorities. This habit trains the mind to think critically and strategically, while also fostering confidence in judgment. Overanalysis diminishes clarity. Decisive thinking enhances. Individuals who practice this habit learn to trust their instincts, assess accurately, and act responsibly, creating a natural rhythm of thoughtful, purposeful living. Time management improves dramatically. Each reopened decision consumes cognitive resources and interrupts workflow. By finalizing decisions, attention is freed for productive tasks, creative work, and meaningful engagement. The brain can allocate resources toward higher value activities rather than repeated evaluation. Effective time management is not about doing more, but about directing effort intelligently. Deciding once each day is a foundational habit for efficiency, focus, and achievement. The habit also strengthens resilience. Even when a decision leads to unexpected outcomes, the energy spent worrying or reconsidering is minimal. The focus shifts to adaptation, learning, and corrective action rather than rumination. Decisiveness cultivates confidence in handling uncertainty and reinforces the mindset that challenges can be navigated without endless delay or hesitation. Resilience grows because energy is spent on solutions, not doubt. Decision fatigue is minimized, human energy for judgment is finite, and constantly reopening choices accelerates depletion. By deciding once per day, the mind reserves strength for more important, complex, or strategic decisions. Energy management is critical for sustained productivity, focus, and well-being. Limiting repetitive decisions preserves mental clarity and enhances performance in all areas of life. The habit improves emotional regulation. Doubt, anxiety, and frustration often accompany reopened decisions. Acting with finality develops emotional stability, patience, and self-control. The mind learns that outcomes can be managed without constant interference, reducing unnecessary stress and irritation. Emotional balance supports better relationships, higher productivity, and a sense of internal calm. Reflection enhances the quality of future decisions. When choices are respected rather than constantly revisited, lessons can be learned from outcomes without overanalyzing the process. Each decision provides data for growth, experience, and refinement of judgment. Reopening choices prevents this reflective learning because energy is spent on repetitive evaluation rather than observation and adaptation. Deciding once daily encourages constructive reflection while maintaining momentum. Trust in personal capability strengthens. When decisions are consistently made and followed through, confidence in judgment and execution grows. Self-reliance is built through repeated practice of finality. Doubt diminishes because experience confirms the ability to make sound choices. Trust in oneself translates into decisive action in all areas of life, creating a ripple effect of clarity, confidence, and effectiveness. Deciding once each day nurtures simplicity. Complexity often arises not from circumstances, but from indecision. By committing to final choices, life becomes more straightforward, organized, and manageable. Mental clarity increases, stress decreases, and focus is enhanced. Simplicity enables efficiency, effectiveness, and ease in daily living. Repeated hesitation complicates life unnecessarily, while finality creates stability and direction. The habit also enhances accountability. Decisions made decisively carry ownership, responsibility, and commitment. People become accountable to themselves and others because choices are respected, actions are taken, and results are accepted. Accountability strengthens character, reliability, and trust. Leadership and influence grow naturally when decisions are clear, definitive, and followed by committed action. Finally, deciding once each day and stopping the reopening of decisions transforms productivity, clarity, focus, and personal power. It reduces stress, strengthens self-trust, improves emotional balance, and preserves energy for meaningful work.
Relationships, accountability and confidence improve because choices are clear, reliable, and consistent. Life becomes simpler, more manageable, and more empowered through this disciplined habit. Decision-making is not about perfection, it is about finality, commitment, and intentional action. Mastering this habit creates mental freedom, enhances effectiveness, and builds a foundation for sustained success in every area of life.
Chapter 8. Notice excuses early and replace them with action. Excuses are the silent thieves of progress. They creep into daily life unnoticed, disguised as reasoning, justification, or explanation, but in reality they prevent action, delay growth, and weaken confidence. Every time a person allows an excuse to govern behavior, opportunities slip away, and potential remains unrealized. Success, fulfillment, and personal growth do not come from reasoning why something cannot be done. They come from doing despite challenges. Noticing excuses early is the first step in reclaiming control over life. Replacing excuses with immediate action is the habit that separates those who achieve from those who remain stagnant. Excuses often begin as subtle thoughts. The mind tells stories about limitations, obstacles, and external circumstances, convincing itself that these are reasons not to act. Left unchecked, these thoughts evolve into patterns that dictate behavior. Recognizing the moment when reasoning transforms into excuse is essential. Awareness is the tool that interrupts the cycle, allowing conscious choice. By identifying excuses as they arise, the individual gains the power to replace them with purposeful action, turning hesitation into forward momentum. Action is the antidote to excuses. No amount of planning, thinking, or rationalization can substitute for tangible steps toward goals. Action demonstrates commitment, courage, and integrity. Every small step taken immediately dismantles the power of excuses. Movement, no matter how modest, builds confidence, generates clarity, and cultivates momentum. People who act consistently discover solutions, opportunities, and resources that were invisible when hidden behind reasoning or delay. Excuses are often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, rejection, criticism, or discomfort drives the mind to rationalize inaction. By noticing excuses early, fear is identified for what it is, a signal, not a command. Action allows the individual to confront fear directly, diminishing its influence over future choices. Courage is developed through repeated practice, and confidence grows because experience demonstrates that obstacles are often smaller than imagined when confronted directly. Self-awareness is critical in noticing excuses. Each person must become attuned to their habitual patterns of avoidance, rationalization, and delay. This requires honesty and observation without judgment. When excuses are detected early, they lose their stealth and influence. Awareness transforms excuses from hidden saboteurs into opportunities for self-discipline and growth. Recognizing internal resistance is the gateway to proactive living, where action replaces hesitation and inertia. Replacing excuses with action requires prioritization. Life presents countless tasks, challenges, and decisions, and the mind will naturally resist those perceived as difficult, unpleasant, or risky. By prioritizing action over reasoning, focus shifts from justification to accomplishment. Even small steps taken immediately have cumulative impact. Each completed task reinforces self-trust, diminishes excuses, and builds momentum toward larger goals. Consistency is more important than magnitude. The habit of acting despite excuses transforms character over time. Excuses often mask responsibility. People frequently attribute failure or inaction to external circumstances, other individuals, or timing. While context matters, allowing external factors to justify delay undermines personal power. By noticing excuses and acting regardless, responsibility is embraced. Ownership over life, choices and outcomes strengthens self-confidence and accountability. People who habitually act see themselves as capable, resilient and competent, while those who rationalize remain limited and reactive. Discipline is built through this habit. Every moment that an excuse is identified and replaced with action reinforces self-mastery. Discipline grows from consistent, conscious effort, not from sporadic bursts of motivation. When excuses are no longer permitted to dictate behavior, the mind learns that action is the default and resistance is temporary. The practice of acting despite internal objections strengthens willpower and prepares the individual for more significant challenges in life, work and relationships. Momentum accelerates when action replaces excuses. Each completed task creates energy, clarity and motivation for the next step. Excuses thrive in stillness, reflection without execution, and delayed effort. Movement undermines. The habit of immediate action builds cumulative advantage over time. People notice that progress generates itself when inertia is broken, creating a cycle of achievement, confidence and proactive engagement. Excuses erode confidence, subtly but consistently. Each time an opportunity is avoided due to rationalization, the mind internalizes limitations. Self-image diminishes as inaction reinforces beliefs of inadequacy or incapability. Acting immediately, even imperfectly, rebuilds confidence by proving competence, resourcefulness and courage. Experience becomes evidence of capability, and trust in oneself strengthens. The mind learns that action leads to results, solutions and growth. Excuses distort perspective. They exaggerate obstacles and minimize potential. By noticing excuses early, clarity returns. Action reveals reality. Challenges are often manageable, resources exist, and solutions are attainable. Experience replaces speculation with evidence. Replacing excuses with action trains the brain to recognize opportunity instead of limitation. The mind becomes solution-focused, proactive and confident, rather than reactive, fearful and hesitant. Time management improves when excuses are replaced with action. Procrastination, disguised as reasoning, consumes hours, mental energy and opportunity. Each moment spent rationalizing is lost and cannot be regained. Immediate action preserves time, creates progress, and reinforces productivity. Habits of decisive effort, even in small doses, compound into substantial achievement. Life becomes more organized, purposeful and meaningful when inaction is minimized and execution is prioritized. Relationships benefit from action over excuses. Promises kept, tasks completed and initiatives undertaken demonstrate reliability, integrity, and trustworthiness. Conversely, excuses diminish credibility, frustrate collaborators, and weaken bonds. Taking responsibility for commitments through prompt action strengthens personal and professional relationships. People respond to consistency and dependability more than they respond to reasons why things cannot be done. Emotional resilience is cultivated by replacing excuses with action. Each time fear, doubt or hesitation is met with deliberate effort, emotional strength grows. Challenges are reframed as opportunities to respond rather than retreat. The mind becomes accustomed to confronting discomfort, taking risks, and handling uncertainty. This emotional resilience reinforces confidence, persistence, and adaptability in every area of life, from work to personal relationships to self-development. Excuses are often habitual. They form patterns that repeat daily, unless consciously interrupted. The habit of noticing excuses as they appear prevents these patterns from controlling behavior. Awareness, combined with immediate action, breaks the cycle. Over time, the mind is trained to recognize resistance quickly
and respond with effort instead of delay. Habitual action replaces habitual hesitation, rewiring behavior toward achievement and growth. Small actions compound. Immediate effort, even in seemingly insignificant tasks, produces momentum, experience, and confidence. Excuses make small opportunities vanish because attention is consumed by reasoning rather than execution. By acting early, progress accumulates, habits are reinforced, and the brain is conditioned for success. Small wins build credibility with oneself and reinforce the principle that consistent action leads to meaningful outcomes. Self-trust is strengthened through this practice. Each time action replaces an excuse, the individual proves reliability to themselves. Trust in personal capability grows, reducing reliance on external validation or reassurance. Life becomes more navigable because confidence in decisions, effort, and follow-through is cultivated. Self-trust is the foundation for resilience, effectiveness, and personal growth. Creativity and problem-solving flourish when action is prioritized. Deliberation without execution can stall innovation. Taking immediate steps allows feedback, learning, and adjustment. Excuses limit experimentation and exploration because perceived obstacles dominate thought. Action generates insight, informs decision-making, and accelerates learning. The habit of replacing excuses with effort cultivates a mindset oriented towards solutions, growth, and opportunity. Accountability is naturally reinforced. Noticing excuses ensures that responsibility is acknowledged rather than avoided. Action demonstrates ownership of choices, commitments, and results. By embracing accountability, integrity, and character are strengthened. Others recognize reliability and credibility when commitments are fulfilled through effort rather than rationalization. Accountability becomes a source of empowerment, not burden, when excuses are replaced by action. The habit also fosters humility. Recognizing excuses as avoidance, rather than truth, requires honesty about limitations, fear, or resistance. Acting despite these challenges demonstrates courage, perseverance, and self-awareness. Humility grows because the individual understands that progress is earned through effort, not reasoning, and that growth requires willingness to face discomfort and uncertainty. Energy is preserved and redirected through decisive effort. Excuses consume mental, emotional, and physical energy. Each moment spent justifying inaction diminishes vitality and focus. Immediate action channels energy toward tangible outcomes, problem-solving, and growth. The mind and body align with purpose, reducing fatigue caused by hesitation and wasted reasoning. Energy is optimized for productivity, creativity, and meaningful progress. Decision-making is sharpened by this practice. Replacing excuses with action requires evaluating options quickly, assessing risk, and committing to effort. The habit trains the brain to make sound choices efficiently and confidently. Indecision is minimized, judgment is improved, and initiative is strengthened. Over time, the individual develops a reputation for reliability, decisiveness, and results-oriented behavior. Finally, noticing excuses early and replacing them with action transforms life. Mental clutter is reduced, confidence grows, momentum is built, and resilience is strengthened. Productivity increases, relationships improve, and opportunities are seized instead of lost. Life becomes defined by effort, accountability, and intentionality, rather than hesitation, rationalization, or delay. This habit is not about perfection, it is about commitment, courage, and consistent execution. Mastering this habit empowers individuals to take control of circumstances, achieve goals, and cultivate personal growth with clarity, focus, and determination. Action becomes the default response. Excuses lose power, and every day becomes an opportunity to move closer to success, fulfillment, and mastery of life.
Chapter 9. End each day by fixing one loose end. Every day presents a multitude of responsibilities, tasks, and interactions, many of which are left unfinished, unresolved, or incomplete. These unfinished elements, no matter how small, carry weight. They linger in the mind, create subtle stress, and accumulate over time, eroding clarity, focus, and peace of mind. Ending each day by fixing one loose end is a simple but transformative habit. It reduces mental clutter, strengthens discipline, and builds a sense of accomplishment that carries into the next day. Completing something tangible reinforces control over circumstances and cultivates confidence, integrity, and momentum. Unfinished business, no matter how trivial it seems, has a way of quietly undermining productivity and focus. A single unresolved email, neglected phone call, or incomplete task can create a sense of internal tension that distracts from more important work. The mind instinctively gravitates toward unresolved matters, often unconsciously pulling attention away from priorities. Addressing at least one loose end daily interrupts this cycle. By closing even one gap, the mind is cleared, focus is sharpened, and the day ends with a measurable achievement. The habit begins with awareness. The first step is noticing what is left incomplete or unattended. People often underestimate the cumulative weight of unfinished tasks because they seem minor individually, yet collectively they create a quiet burden that affects sleep, energy, and mental clarity. By consciously identifying one loose end to address before the day ends, energy is directed intentionally. Awareness transforms a passive, distracted mindset into an active, solution-oriented one. Action is critical. Awareness alone is not enough. The loose end must be fixed before the day concludes. This might mean responding to a pending message, organizing a small part of the workspace, clarifying a misunderstanding with someone, or completing a minor project task. The point is progress, not perfection. Even small actions signal accountability and consistency. They demonstrate to oneself that commitments matter, that unfinished business is not ignored, and that personal responsibility is honored. Completing a loose end strengthens self-trust. Every time a person resolves an unfinished item, they confirm their reliability, consistency, and ability to follow through. Self-trust is foundational for confidence, decision-making, and long-term success. People who habitually finish what they start, or at least resolve one lingering issue each day, develop a pattern of integrity and dependability. This internal trust extends outward, influencing relationships, work, and personal growth. The habit also reduces anxiety and mental clutter. Unresolved tasks create a subtle, lingering stress that is often underestimated. Even when consciously ignored, unfinished matters occupy cognitive space, pulling energy and focus. By resolving one loose end, the mind experiences relief. The mental weight lifts, creating clarity, calm, and readiness for the next day. This simple habit can transform emotional balance by reducing the quiet tension that accumulates from neglect. Consistency compounds results. Fixing one loose end daily is not about quantity, it is about building a reliable, repeatable habit. Over time, this practice develops discipline, resilience, and efficiency. Tasks that once piled up begin to be addressed before they escalate into chaos. The accumulation of completed items enhances confidence and self-efficacy. Each day's small resolution builds a foundation of order, clarity, and forward momentum. Attention to detail grows through this habit. When the focus is on resolving at least one unfinished item daily, observation skills sharpen. People notice what has been left incomplete, where gaps exist, and which areas require attention. This heightened awareness spills over into other aspects of life, fostering organization, foresight, and a proactive approach. Habits of attention and accountability are cultivated naturally, strengthening effectiveness in both personal and professional domains. The habit supports problem solving. Loose ends often hide issues that, if left unaddressed, grow into larger obstacles. By resolving something daily, potential problems are intercepted before escalation. The mind learns to act early, prevent accumulation of tasks, and anticipate consequence. Problem solving becomes systematic rather than reactive. Incremental attention to detail prevents crises, reduces stress, and builds competence and confidence over time. Relationships benefit significantly from resolving loose ends. Neglected commitments, unanswered messages, or forgotten responsibilities affect how others perceive reliability and respect. By taking deliberate action to address one pending matter daily, interpersonal trust and credibility are strengthened. People notice consistency, responsiveness, and conscientiousness. Small, consistent follow-through reinforces bonds, nurtures respect, and reduces misunderstanding. Relationships become smoother, more cooperative, and mutually supportive when individuals honor commitments and complete tasks promptly. Decision-making improves through habitual closure. Each time a loose end is resolved, choices are made, priorities are clarified, and consequences are observed. The brain becomes accustomed to evaluating what needs attention, taking action, and moving forward without procrastination. Decision fatigue diminishes because the mind is trained to address tasks decisively rather than leaving them to linger. Confidence in judgment and execution strengthens, supporting larger, more complex decisions over time. Efficiency increases when loose ends are regularly addressed. Tasks that accumulate or remain incomplete often require repeated attention, double effort, or correction later. By resolving one item each day, energy is preserved, workflows remain smoother, and efficiency rises. Small daily actions prevent backlogs, reduce redundancy, and maintain steady progress. The mind and environment remain aligned, organized, and ready for new priority. Self-discipline is reinforced through this practice. Taking responsibility for unfinished matters, even minor ones, builds control over habits, impulses, and routines. Discipline grows when the mind and body are trained to follow through consistently. Each completed task serves as proof that action, commitment, and persistence are possible. Repeated practice strengthens willpower and the capacity to tackle larger challenges with confidence. The habit enhances reflection and evaluation. Ending the day by addressing one loose end provides a natural opportunity to review priorities, assess progress, and identify areas for improvement. Reflection allows for learning from both successes and oversight, improving planning and execution for the next day. The mind becomes accustomed to continuous assessment and adjustment, fostering growth, insight, and effectiveness. Emotional balance benefits from closure. Lingering unfinished tasks generate low-level stress, frustration, and distraction. By resolving even a single loose end, a sense of completion and accomplishment emerges. The day ends with satisfaction rather than tension. Over time, emotional resilience and stability are strengthened because attention is directed toward resolution rather than worry or procrastination. Confidence is amplified with consistent practice. Each resolved task reinforces belief in personal capability, reliability, and responsibility. Confidence is built not through isolated victories, but through repeated demonstration of follow-through. Individuals learn to trust themselves to address challenges, take action, and see things through, reinforcing self-esteem and motivation. Focus is sharpened through this habit. Unfinished tasks compete for mental attention, reducing concentration on current priority. Resolving one item clears mental space, enhances focus, and improves quality of work on subsequent tasks.
The mind is trained to operate with clarity and intention, addressing what matters in a timely manner rather than being distracted by unresolved issues. Habits of excellence develop through daily closure. Attention to small details, consistent follow-through, and proactive problem-solving cultivate a pattern of high performance. By consistently ending each day with resolution, personal standards rise, routine strengthen, and effectiveness becomes habitual. Excellence is built incrementally, reinforced daily, and sustained over time. Productivity multiplies with this approach. Each small task resolved contributes to larger goals, preventing accumulation of work, reducing stress, and maintaining momentum. The compounding effect of daily closure means that weeks, months, and years of consistent action result in substantial achievement. Incremental progress is maintained because attention to detail is habitual and deliberate. Life becomes more manageable through this practice. Unresolved items create mental clutter, stress, and chaos. By taking the time to address one loose end daily, the mind, environment, and responsibilities remain organized and balanced. The habit transforms overwhelming lists into manageable actions, creating a sense of control, order, and readiness for future challenges. Accountability is reinforced. Completing one pending task daily demonstrates commitment to responsibility, reliability, and integrity. Others observe consistency and follow through, building trust and credibility. Personal accountability is strengthened because action becomes the default response to incompletion, while neglect becomes less likely to dominate behavior. Self-respect grows when the habit is practiced consistently. Completing tasks, even minor ones, signals to oneself that commitments matter, responsibilities are honored, and personal standards are upheld. Self-respect is not built through intent alone, but through deliberate action and follow-through. Daily attention to loose ends fosters pride, integrity, and self-confidence. Time management improves because tasks do not accumulate. Each day ends with at least one resolution, preventing backlogs, reducing last-minute stress, and keeping priority aligned. The habit trains the mind to address issues promptly rather than deferring, optimizing time allocation and mental energy. Planning becomes more accurate and execution more efficient. Finally, ending each day by fixing one loose end is a simple but powerful habit. It enhances discipline, self-trust, confidence, focus, and productivity. It reduces stress, mental clutter, and indecision, while reinforcing accountability, integrity, and reliability. Relationships benefit from consistency and responsiveness. Over time, this daily practice accumulates into significant personal and professional growth. It transforms approach to tasks, mindset, and life itself. Mastering this habit ensures that every day concludes with intentional action, mental clarity, and a sense of accomplishment that carries forward into all areas of life.
Chapter 10. Repeat this habit daily until stress stops running you. Stress is a silent companion in many lives, gradually eroding clarity, focus, and well-being. It comes not from external events alone, but from how individuals respond, react, and carry unresolved issues. Daily tension builds quietly when tasks are left incomplete, decisions postponed, or emotions unregulated. The habit of repeating intentional actions every day, consistently and deliberately, has the power to stop stress from dictating your life. When practiced faithfully, it transforms how you approach responsibilities, manage challenges, and navigate the pressures of daily existence. Stress loses its grip because life becomes orderly, proactive, and intentional. Repetition is the engine of transformation. Habits formed through consistent action rewire the mind to respond differently. Instead of being reactive, scattered, or overwhelmed, the brain learns to anticipate, plan, and execute tasks methodically. Each day that intentional action is repeated strengthens resilience, self-control, and efficiency. Patterns replace chaos, and control over circumstances grows. The repetition of this habit trains the mind to operate with clarity rather than distraction, purpose rather than impulse. The first step in eliminating stress is awareness. Stress signals often manifest as tension, frustration, procrastination, or scattered thoughts. Recognizing these cues early allows the individual to intervene before they accumulate into overwhelm. Repeating constructive actions daily intercepts these stress signals. It provides structure and reduces mental clutter, giving the mind a framework to process challenges efficiently. Awareness combined with repetition prevents minor pressures from escalating into full-blown stress. Action without delay is critical. Each day presents opportunities to address small unresolved items, make decisions, and take responsibility. Repetition of timely action transforms the way the mind perceives challenges. Delays and avoidance are replaced with immediate response, reducing anxiety and mental tension. The mind becomes conditioned to anticipate closure rather than accumulation of unfinished tasks. Stress decreases because control is regained and momentum is maintained. The habit cultivates consistency. Stress often arises from unpredictability, uncertainty, and unfinished obligations. By repeating deliberate, structured actions every day, patterns of reliability and stability emerge. The mind and environment align, creating a sense of order and predictability. Each day that the habit is practiced reinforces confidence, reduces fear of oversight, and strengthens self-trust. Over time, stress diminishes because life becomes governed by action rather than reaction. Self-discipline grows with daily repetition. The human mind is naturally inclined to seek ease and avoid discomfort, which often leads to stress accumulation. By committing to a daily habit, even when motivation is low, discipline develops. This internal control over choices reduces anxiety because challenges are confronted consistently rather than deferred. Repetition makes persistence automatic, and stress is minimized because the individual knows that actions will be taken regardless of circumstances or emotional state. Momentum builds when the habit is repeated. Daily action compounds over time. Small tasks, decisions made and responsibilities fulfilled accumulate into substantial progress. The mind observes success and capability, which reduces feelings of helplessness or overwhelm. Stress is mitigated because the brain is focused on results rather than unresolved obligations. Momentum reinforces confidence, motivation, and the ability to handle increasingly complex challenges without becoming paralyzed. Prioritization improves through this habit. Stress often emerges from trying to handle too much at once, or from indecision about what matters most. Repetition of intentional actions teaches the mind to identify what requires immediate attention and what can wait. Priorities become clear, and energy is directed efficiently. The habit reduces the mental chaos that fuels stress, creating space for thoughtful decision-making and deliberate execution. Accountability strengthens. Each day that the habit is repeated reinforces ownership over actions, responsibilities, and choices. Accountability reduces internal conflict because the individual consistently honors commitments. Stress is diminished when personal responsibility is embraced rather than avoided. Others also recognize reliability, reinforcing trust and smooth collaboration. Consistent action becomes the backbone of personal and professional credibility. Resilience grows naturally with daily practice. Life is inherently unpredictable, and challenges will arise regardless of planning. By repeating this habit every day, the mind learns to navigate pressure with composure. Small, consistent victories over tasks and responsibilities build emotional stamina. Stress is managed not by avoiding difficulties, but by facing them systematically and effectively. Repetition trains the brain to respond to obstacles with problem-solving rather than panic or avoidance. Clarity of thought improves significantly. Stress clouds judgment and limits the ability to see solutions. Repeating intentional, structured actions daily creates a rhythm that enhances focus, sharpens decision-making, and improves cognitive efficiency. Each completed task reduces mental noise, allowing for clearer assessment of priorities and options. The habit transforms the mind into a tool for strategy rather than a victim of scattered thoughts and anxiety. Confidence is reinforced through repetition. Each day that the habit is practiced demonstrates capability, reliability, and control. Confidence is cumulative, growing as the individual observes consistent follow-through and successful handling of responsibilities. Stress diminishes because self-trust increases, and the mind perceives challenges as manageable rather than overwhelming. Confidence and stress management are intertwined, and repetition solidifies both simultaneously. Time is preserved and optimized. Stress often arises from feeling there is not enough time, or from procrastination. By addressing tasks and responsibilities daily, time is used efficiently, and deadlines are less intimidating. Repetition transforms time management from reactive urgency to proactive flow. Each day builds structure and predictability, and the accumulation of consistent effort ensures progress without last-minute panic or stress-induced errors. Relationships benefit from consistent habit. Stress in relationships often stems from broken commitments, forgotten responsibilities, or miscommunication. Daily repetition of responsible action demonstrates reliability, builds trust, and reduces tension with others. People notice dependability, which strengthens personal and professional bonds. Emotional friction is minimized because expectations are consistently met, reducing the stress of relational uncertainty. Emotional stability is enhanced. Daily repetition of deliberate habits trains the mind to remain steady under pressure. Each completed action signals competence and control, which lowers anxiety and fear. Stress diminishes because the mind develops a pattern of responding to challenges proactively rather than reacting emotionally. Emotional regulation improves because the habit creates predictable, constructive routines that anchor the mind amid external pressures. Procrastination is weakened. Excuses and delay are primary sources of stress. Daily repetition reinforces immediate action and accountability. The mind becomes conditioned to act rather than avoid, reducing the buildup of tasks and responsibilities that generate anxiety. Over time, the avoidance reflex diminishes because the pattern of decisive effort is automatic. Stress is curtailed because work is consistently addressed rather than accumulated. Problem-solving skills sharpen. Each day presents challenges that require decisions, actions, and adjustment. Repetition of addressing responsibilities, even small ones, enhances adaptability, creativity, and resourcefulness. Stress is managed because the mind is trained to seek solutions actively rather than dwell on obstacles or limitations. Each successful resolution reinforces the capacity to handle future difficulties calmly and efficiently. The habit fosters long-term vision. Daily attention to responsibilities and tasks ensures that immediate actions align with broader goals. Stress is reduced because progress is visible, measured, and predictable. The mind develops confidence that objectives are being steadily pursued rather than delayed or forgotten. Repetition reinforces the connection between effort and results, creating clarity of purpose that buffers against anxiety. Self-reflection is integrated naturally. Ending each day with intentional action invites observation of what worked, what did not, and how to improve. Repetition cultivates insight into habits, productivity, and personal effectiveness. Stress is minimized because reflection allows proactive adjustment rather than reactive scrambling. Awareness and action combine to create a stable foundation for growth and resilience. Energy is optimized. Daily repetition ensures that mental, emotional, and physical energy is directed toward purposeful action rather than wasted on worry, guilt, or unresolved obligations. The mind and body operate in alignment, conserving vitality for meaningful effort.
Stress is reduced because energy is focused on solutions, tasks, and progress, rather than dispersed through indecision or avoidance. Focus and attention are sharpened. Each day, by systematically addressing responsibilities, the mind develops the habit of clear, sustained concentration. Distraction and scattered thinking diminish. Stress is mitigated because clarity replaces uncertainty, and the individual can engage fully with tasks and challenges. Daily repetition trains attention, ensuring that effort is directed where it matters most. Finally, repeating this habit daily until stress stops running you transforms life entirely. The habit creates a structure of action, responsibility, and accountability. Mental clutter diminishes, confidence grows, focus strengthens, and energy is preserved. Stress is no longer a controlling force because the individual takes proactive control of tasks, decisions, and responses. Momentum builds, relationships improve, resilience strengthens, and clarity prevails. Life becomes navigable, purposeful, and intentional. Every day becomes an opportunity to reinforce the habit, cultivate calm, and maintain mastery over circumstances. Repetition ensures that stress loses influence, while self-trust, effectiveness, and personal growth dominate. This is the power of consistency, action, and deliberate attention, a practice that, once embraced, changes the trajectory of life permanently.